What I thought I'll do today, so I'm supposed to talk about a little bit the first 5 years and next 5 years of Angry Birds, and of course, don't really have a clue about what's going to happen in the next 5 years, but I thought I'll start with what we've achieved so far with Angry Birds in the last 5 years. And to do that, a short video. So if you could roll the video to start with. That's like Angry Birds so far. So yeah, the game came out in December 2009, actually on our birthday, 11th of December. So yeah, 5 years, it's okay, a long time in this industry, but if you look at the kind of like brand world, it's actually very, very short. So you could say that as a brand, with Angry Birds, we're just a baby and kind of like taking our first steps. But yeah, as you saw in the video, we've done a few baby steps on the way. And when we launched Angry Birds back in 2009, there were 12 people in the company. Now, 5 years later, we're actually a bit over 700. Yeah, added a few. Also, if you look at kind of like the game download numbers, we have more than 2.5 billion downloads of the Angry Birds games. So it's the most downloaded game ever. And yeah, we reach a few people. But if you look at the company, there's actually only two things that we worry about every day, and that's our fans and our brand. And those of you who kind of listened in on the previous presentation, I was also talking about turning players into fans. And that's one thing that we've been talking about at Rovio kind of like every day for the last 5 years, and still do that, and it's always about the fan experience. So it's very, very important for us that we offer amazing experiences for our fans. And we very, very intentionally talk about fans, because that also kind of communicates that we want to create services, we want to create experiences that are at that level that we kind of like deserve to talk about fans. So we don't talk about users, we don't talk about customers. It's really about fans. It's about the fan experience. Then if you look at kind of like Angry Birds as a brand, yeah, we have a few games out there. And actually, question here, how many of you have actually played Angry Birds? So it's, I would say that it's almost 100%. Okay, you there need to down, but okay. So, you know, it's pretty well known as a game, but also what's very interesting that because of the number of games that we have out there, we're on pretty much every device, 2.5 billion downloads. The brand awareness is pretty amazing. 93% of the Chinese population knows the brand. 9 out of 10 Americans know the brand. 91% of the Indian population knows the brand. So pretty much 9 out of 10 people on the planet knows the brand of Angry Birds. So when they see this red bird, they know what it is. And that's something that is totally unprecedented. I mean, if you look at some of these other big brands out there, in the character business, Hello Kitty, that some of you, everybody here know Hello Kitty? Let's again show of hands. Yeah, so it's almost as big as Angry Birds. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so Hello Kitty has been around for 40 years. So it's kind of like this middle-aged cat character, celebrated 40 years birthday last year. So again, when you look at Angry Birds, we're just a baby. Okay, if you look at somebody even older, Mickey Mouse, 1928. Or then kind of like more in our domain of games, Mario, been around for a while, almost 30 years. So Angry Birds, we're very, very young, but because of digital distribution and the app stores and all of that, it's now possible to reach a massive audience much, much faster. I mean, if you go back to early days of Disney and when they kind of like unleashed Mickey Mouse to the world, they didn't have like iPhones and Android and digital distribution. I mean, they did that. The first thing they did was a black and white cartoon called Steamboat Willie. And that's kind of like how Mickey Mouse entered the world. So of course it took a lot longer. I mean, it was black and white, we have color, we have interactivity. So, so it's kind of like unfair to compare to some of those characters that have been around for a long, long time. The world was very, very different and you couldn't do things that we take for granted today. And I mean, again, some of the numbers, if you look at China, there's 100 million new smartphones every quarter. India, there's 200 million already out there, 100 million being added this year. So the numbers, as all of us know in this industry, are crazy big. But also good to remember, if you look 5 years back, everybody thought that was crazy when in 2010 I said that, okay, with Angry Birds, our ambition is to have 100 million downloads. And it's like, Peter, you're crazy, 100 million. I mean, only Tetris has done that and it took them 20 years. And nobody kind of like took me or us seriously when we said that, okay, of course we're going to have 100 million. I still remember when we had flyers for like GDC where it was like Angry Birds, 500,000 downloads, which was like amazing. Now, if you kind of like run around bragging with 500,000 downloads, it's kind of like no big deal. But it used to be. And I think that this is again very, very important to keep in mind, 5 years. Yes, it's a long time in our industry, lots has happened. But again, when you look at brands and you look at the world, 5 years is nothing. So that's why I always kind of say that with Angry Birds, we're off to a good start, but we're only getting started. And that's really very, very important to keep in mind, that 5 years is not a long time, really. But if you then look at Angry Birds and kind of like the 5 years, and we had some of the examples there in the video. So yes, we have a lot of copies of our games, and that's kind of like interesting in itself. But we expanded into a lot of other areas. And if you look at Rovio today, we're really in the business of providing Angry Birds branded experiences in all forms and shapes to our fans. Sometimes those experiences take very physical form. So we sold millions of these Angry Birds plush toys. And again, that is something that helps us keep the brand there all the time. So, see the toy, download the game, play the game, buy the toy, drink the soft drink. So, so that's something that we started very, very early. And if you look at our business, we haven't announced kind of like last year, the year before, 47% of our business was in licensing, in physical consumer products, plush toys, soft drinks, t-shirts, and so on. Working with more than 500 licensing partners all over the planet. And if you look at some of the licensing, like business stats, Angry Birds was the 7th largest licensed brand of all brands on the planet, 2013. So kind of like getting there. Not even close to being #1 in that space, but getting into number 7 into the top 10 in actually in licensing business we've done for like less than 4 years, so done that pretty fast as well. Okay, then we didn't stop with the kind of like the physical products and that business. We also then acquired very early on an animation studio. We're now running the largest animation studio in Northern Europe, and our first animated series, Angry Birds Toons, we just announced that we've hit 4 billion views for that. And that was kind of the first season was 52 episodes, 2 minutes 45 seconds. Reason why we hit a few billion views for that is that we didn't just do what everybody else is doing in animation, that okay, let's create animated series and then go pitch it to some broadcasters and hope that they take it on. We actually used our games as distribution platform for the animation. So now when you start one of our games, you'll see the play button, but right next to it you have the watch button, Angry Birds Toons.tv. So overnight, by updating our games and bringing that button to our games, we created one of the biggest video distribution networks on the planet. And after that, we have then added third-party content, so you'll find animations from animation studios all over the planet on our network. So again, doing things a bit differently, and I think that's also been one of our kind of key things at Rovio, that we always look at how can we do things differently. As all of you know and heard in kind of like many of the presentations here, it's a very crowded market out there. Every day there are hundreds of games hitting the App Store. And for every Angry Birds, there are many, many not so Angry Birds, not so successful games. And I think that if you look at the marketing side, the branding side, and this is actually not only in games, in any market out there, typically there's not kind of like a problem with supply. There's a lot of supply out there. So you really need to think about how do you stand out from the crowd in everything you do. You know, one example of like personal level and like what we do at Rovio, so showing up at any event wearing a red hoodie, not too many other people wearing red here. So it's again, you immediately stand out, people find you. And that's again how we did, for example, the app icon for Angry Birds. We did something like 30, 40 designs for the app icon, and then we checked out that, okay, what does it look like to have that icon at #1 in the App Store? And of course it looked very good, and it looked very good for like more than 300 days. So every little detail matters. So it's not good enough to just make the best possible games. You also have to do the best possible marketing. And maybe a little bit on kind of like the topic of brand there. It's very different to build games for 100 days than to build brand for 100 years. So if you look at the Rovio approach and what we're doing, we're really looking at how do we build a brand for at least 100 years. And that's something that's very, very important. So how many here know about, and then of course this is a gaming crowd, how many here know Puzzle and Dragons? Okay, maybe 10 people, so pretty good. So Puzzle and Dragons made $1 million last year, $1 billion in Japan, 40 million downloads. So even in this crowd, very, very few people know Puzzle and Dragons. I mean, Puzzle and Dragons just one game by Gung Ho in Japan, and okay, elsewhere, but Japan is where they make their money, made more money than we've ever made at Rovio. But is it a brand? And this is very important, that it's very different approach to build $1 billion a year free-to-play games. And of course, we want to do that as well. So I mean, don't get me wrong there, but we haven't. But what we have done is that we have built a brand that we think will be around for at least 100 years. Okay, I used Hello Kitty, Mickey Mouse, Mario. Hello Kitty as one example, 40 years, and that's just like a cat character. I mean, but you know, they've done a good job, of course, at Sanrio. But I think that this is very, very important. I think that if you look at now going forward, how many here actually, are you all like making games? All from game companies? Okay, yeah, pretty much. So I think that then you're very aware of the fact that, again, as I said, it's very crowded out there. It's tough to stand out. But also, because of that, user acquisition costs are, let's say that it's not that inexpensive to get users on board. And it also means that we have games companies now running crazy things like Super Bowl ads, massive TV campaigns. Okay, I haven't had time to walk around Barcelona as I just got here, but last year I was walking downtown Madrid, and like every street corner was covered with outdoor advertising for something called Candy Crush. I don't know, it's some kind of game. Apparently makes a lot of money. But anyway, it's very, very interesting to see that it now all of a sudden makes sense to do outdoor advertising, TV advertising for mobile games, for mobile free-to-play games. And the reason for that, I think very interesting kind of like piece of information recently was that the Apple iOS App Store alone, so just Apple, is bigger than all of Hollywood box office. Think about that. Just Apple App Store makes more money, kind of like for all us and Apple, than all of Hollywood makes with their movies in the theaters. It's pretty cool. But that also then explains why you have things like Super Bowl ads for Clash of Clans. You have Candy Crush outdoor advertising all over the place because there is a lot more money in games than in movies. And of course we take for granted that, you know, the Hollywood guys, how they do marketing. You make a movie, 100 million. Then you can like throw 100 million at advertising and you hope for the best. It's pretty much how it works. And because of that, whenever there is a big movie coming out, you know about it. Because it's on TV, it's using that outdoor advertising, it's doing all of those things. Same thing is now happening in our industry. It's super, super competitive. You have to stand out. Okay, you can use brute force and, you know, throw some money at TV, outdoor, print, you name it. But then when you think about that, what does it mean? It means that our business is becoming all about brand. Those are the things that are being advertised on TV typically. Brand. So I asked about Puzzle and Dragons. So that's a super, super successful game. 40 million downloads. So, you know, a bit less than our 2.5 billion. But that 40 million generates $1 billion plus a year in revenue. It's pretty amazing. But it doesn't build necessarily a brand, as we saw here. Very few of you, like 10 people, knew about Puzzle and Dragons as kind of like as a brand. So again, very, very different. About, let's see, 14 months ago, we released something called Angry Birds Go. You could see that in the 5-year video that I showed. We did 0 user acquisition, like paid user acquisition for Angry Birds Go. How many downloads do you think we have for Angry Birds Go? Any guesses? 120 million. Power of the brand. So again, I think future of our business very much about strong brands. 9 out of 10 people on this planet know Angry Birds. So it's a good start. We can do things. Next year, we're releasing our first full feature-length movie. So again, it's using this Hollywood-proven model. You take like roughly 100 million, you make a full feature-length movie, and then throw a bit of money at it, put it in theaters, people will know about your brand. So far, we built pretty good start with our games, so 9 out of 10 people know the brand. Next year, we're going to throw a movie at that. It's going to be a fantastic movie. It's full feature length, 3D. Haven't really shown much more than 1 image of the movie so far, but you'll hear more about that like very, very soon. Our biggest production ever, and it's actually one of the biggest entertainment productions in Europe ever. So it costs a lot to make these things. But again, we're doing that because we're building a brand not for like 100 days, but for 100 years. So taking a very, very long-term perspective. So games, animation, consumer products. In the area of like physical products, we also got into this park business a couple of years ago. And we also looked at that okay, Disney is spending something like 5 billion building their latest park outside of Shanghai. Okay, then we kind of like looked at, okay, do we have 5 billion? Do we have 6 billion? Not so much. So probably can't compete with those guys by throwing more money at parks. So instead of building massive theme parks where you go there, you stand in line for 2 hours, ride for 2 minutes, and repeat as many times you can during a day or two. Actually did that with the wife and kids in the summer, and then kind of like decided, okay, never again, because standing in line is not my favorite thing to do. The rides are cool, but still. Anyway, so then we looked at that we didn't have 5 billion in the bank to kind of like start building massive theme parks, so we started building what we call activity parks. We now have those back home in Finland. We have several. We have these in China, in Russia. We have 2 of them together with our good partner NASA in the US. So we have one in Houston at the Houston Space Center. We have one at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So these are small-scale activity parks. You walk in there, low line. You actually are part of the activity. So it's kind of like a bit of physical activity. Kids love them, and they don't cost 5 billion to make. They actually cost like a few $100K up to like a few million. Very scalable, and our goal is to have those every city, every neighborhood. You can walk there, ride your bike. So not 1 per continent, but many per city even. So again, very, very different model. And I think that's, again, as I said here, you really always have to think about how do you differentiate, how do you stand out from the crowd. So that's what we always try to do at Rovio. So thinking about our fans, our brand, what kind of experience can we provide for our fans. In games, in animation, sometimes we make parks. So again, very, very different from just a games company. So what we are building is really a branded entertainment company with Angry Birds. So going forward, we will keep investing even more into our brand, building branded experiences for our fans. And yeah, we might have 2.5 billion or so downloads, but that's just like one metric. We only reach a few tens of millions of people every day. What we want to do is we want to reach 1 billion people a day. We want to have 1 billion DAU. So we're far, far from where we need to be. And there's another like great red brand that reaches 1 billion people a day. Every day there are 1 billion servings of Coke. And that's a soft drink. It's a physical product. So if Coke can do that with a physical product, why wouldn't we be able to reach 1 billion people a day with our brand? So again, it's all up to us to build amazing experiences for our fans. And then on the topic of Coke, okay, everybody knows Coke and that, red iconic brand, but they also have Sprite and Fanta and what have you. So same thing if you look at Rovio. At the core, we have Angry Birds. That's how we built our distribution. That's how we made 9 out of 10 people on the planet aware of us. But of course, we can do Sprite, we can do Fanta, we can do other brands, other things as well. And in there, we have our publishing arm. So we're always scouting for cool new games, great new games. Just released Jolly Jam the other week. That's our first game done by a Chinese developer in Beijing. You should check it out. It's a great game. Great new take on match 3. Who said that innovation doesn't come out of China? Innovation is actually happening everywhere. So great game, you should check it out. Or Plunder Pirates that we came out with last year. So our take together with Midoki on this kind of like build and battle. We're getting there. It's beautiful, beautiful game. Of course, we want to kind of like do a bit better on things like monetization and all of that, but slowly but surely we're learning how to do free-to-play properly as well, working with partners. And we have 2 games in soft launch right now. Angry Birds Fight, our first game made in Japan. So been working with partners there. And then we have Angry Birds Stella Pop coming out any day now, which is our take on kind of like a nicely branded, nicely characterized, or like character injected, I don't know what would be a good term, bubble shooter game. And that's also like in soft launch right now. So keeping busy on kind of like the game side as well. And trying to keep busy, like all over the place, of course, making sure that people can wake up in the morning with Angry Birds and interact with us during the day, and we love when people fall asleep playing Angry Birds. So then we are building lifestyle. That's what we want to do, 1 billion people a day. And that's actually not like super ambitious because there are a few billion people on this planet. So we think that we can get there. And it will take us a few years, but that's kind of like where we're going with our brand, with our experiences for our fans.